Your beliefs become words, words become actions, actions become habits, and habits determine where you go. This is the Motivation Factor Podcast. Hey guys, you're on with another episode of the Motivation Factor Podcast. Season 2 is here right now, and I'm going to get into this. I'm super excited again I'm always excited about the guest on today's episode. Know this guy inside and out. It's super personal to me, actually, because that guest is me. I'm the guest that's on today's episode, and this episode and this season is really all about the mind, the inner workings of the mind. Today's specific episode, actually, we're going to talk about the importance of repetition to create habits. And there's 3 things I want to talk about right now. So the first is in creating a habit, right? Let's talk the 3 R's, right? And I'm going to post this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll post the links, I'll cite my sources, things like that. These are things that I practice, that I do to help me. And my goal on every episode is to empower you, the listener, and now the viewer, if you're watching this with video. So 3 R's. Number 1, we're going to talk about reminder, then routine, and then reward. So first things, let's get right into this. So talking about reminder, okay? If we took losing weight, for example, or gaining weight, right? The reminder for me is I go to the mirror in the morning when I use the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face, take a shower, things like that. And I look in the mirror and I see that, okay, where me specifically, my BMI, my body mass index, my fat count, where I'm looking to be, if I'm looking to shred up because it's more spring and summertime, or if I'm looking to bulk up specifically for the fall and winter months, right? And then I can shred back down for the summer months. So I kind of get bigger, then get a little smaller, get bigger, get a little smaller. So I'll look at that, and that's my cue. So the reminder, think of it as the cue for, okay, that's the reminder, that's the cue that I need to make a change, whatever the case may be. Maybe you want to learn a new sales skill. Maybe you want to, if you're in sports, right, and you want to be able to follow through and your pitcher, and you want the different positionings of a proper way to throw baseball, whatever the case may be. So in this case, let's take working out, for example. So that's my cue. That's the reminder. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the routine. So it's the action you're taking to establish the habit. Now, when you're establishing habits or behaviors, what you're actually, from a scientific standpoint, not to get too in depth so I don't confuse myself, number one, we're talking about neural pathways. Okay, so a neural pathway in the mind, to create new neural pathways, it's formed and created by habits and behavior. So actions you take. And to create a new habit, you create a new neural pathway. Okay, so in terms of repetition, it's actually estimated that it takes about 10,000 repetitions to master a skill and develop the associated neural pathway with that. So that reminder, okay, that I know how to do this, and then it becomes second nature for you. Certain studies have shown that it takes maybe 21 days to form a habit of constantly doing it over and over again, a few times a day. Others would say 3 to 6 months. So it really varies based on the person, you and or your mind. Okay. Also, focus plays a part in that. Focus, organization, the amount of massive action you're taking or inaction, right? Which we talk about in other episodes and in other videos. So with this specifically, it's the routine, right? So our action. And then the third is the reward. So going back to routine, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. Okay. Because part of my routine, right, is for me with exercising and nutrition, I've broken it down where it's 60% nutrition, 20% exercise, and 20% sleep. So with that being said, me creating the right habit of going to the gym every day. So I structure it around the same time. So I go after work, right? So I'll work during the day, get out at 5, and then boom, I'm at the gym about 5:30, 5:45. It's the same 5 days a week for me. I remember when I took a hiatus from the gym when I in a former life, it so seems now, where, man, I didn't go to the gym. I was working so much. I was trying to balance between family, just prioritizing, which everything was out of whack. That included my health. Once I got refocused, first started with the goal. The reminder was there in the mirror every day, right? but there wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me to take action. The reminder was there, but there still wasn't a big enough why behind that for me to take action. But once my why got big enough, man, I wanted to get back in shape. I wanted to get back in shape. I wanted to get the edge back, I called it, right? Um, so I created, so I knew I needed to create those habits. So I had the reminder there, created a game plan to then execute on that game plan. All right, it's going to the gym every day. It's me changing my eating habits. Got with a nutritionist who was on a previous episode. Eat, Fit, Evolve. Quick plug there. And we created a nutrition plan. And I knew that if I followed this plan, which was new to me, these when to eat, what to eat, and how much to eat, I knew that I would eventually get the result I was looking for. Right. So it took more than 21 days for me. It took about 3 months, 3 to 4 months of me consistently eating what this nutritionist put together for me to really establish the habits. Now I don't need to look at it. I still use a scale and I'll meal prep during the week. But for the most part, by eye level, I can get within 1 or 2 ounces of whatever I'm doing because it's the same things. And I've created new neural pathways in my mind that now it's just wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. Now, talking about reward. Well, the reward is when I look in the mirror. The reward is when I take my shirt off. The reward is my increased energy, which actually has come from my increase in testosterone levels as a result of me back in the gym and working out and actually working legs twice a week, which they find that most of your testosterone is found in your glutes and in your lower body. But anyway, so increase in energy, right, is a reward there. Increase in focus, right? Me getting on some whole food type supplements, which have really made a difference for me. Mix that with my diet, supplements, dieting, and consistent exercise. It's now second nature for me to the point where if I don't work out during the week, I feel off. I feel weird. This whole time during quarantine as well, man, I've had to adapt and create new habits. This is a perfect example, right? During this whole COVID situation where, do I have a home gym? Not really. I mean, I have myself. I got really good at push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups, right? 30-pound dumbbells where I can do some things there. So I learned to create new habits as now we've been, a few months now at home. So being able to do that. So now once this is up, once the ban is lifted, which I'm told it's actually tomorrow for where I am in New Hampshire, where my gym's actually opening back up at 50% capacity. So now I will start to get back in the gym. But it's just like riding a bike, right? I've already created those neural pathways through the power of repetition and creating habits and seeing the result in the past. All that reaffirms what I've already done. So now I'm able, for the most part, to get back in the gym, get back on my routine. And that might it be a little difficult? Maybe in the beginning, but let me tell you, that learning curve is now shortened. Once I get over that hump of getting back in it, Monday through Friday, hitting the gym right after work, I'll be back in it. It's honestly like riding a bike. And if you don't know how to ride a bike, I think now's a good time to start this summer, right? We're in right now. Getting outdoors, sun's good for you. So first thing you want to do is get your hands on a bike. That's number one. Second thing you probably want to do is get a helmet, some elbow pads, knee pads, and everything of the sort. And then get on the bike. I think the enemy of all progress is inaction, right? And the biggest part about this reminder, routine, reward, about the importance of repetition to create habits or core habits, it's really comes down to like 2 words: massive action. I find that massive, and I always take it back here because if you have fear about something, more times than not, you take action on something, you figure it out as you go. Once you look back, you see, man, there was no reason for me to be afraid of that. Like I overcame that. I was able to do it. Like I didn't succumb to the fear. I didn't stay a victim. I became a victor or a conqueror. And now the difference, by the way, between being a conqueror and more than a conqueror is you conquer something, but then to be more than a conqueror is now to go back and teach other people to conquer as well, right? So quick plug there. But again, talking about the importance of repetition and creating habits, it's really those 3 things, guys. It's the reminder, the routine, and the reward. If you stick to those 3 things, you can create a habit for anything. Now, obviously, we're talking about good habits. It also works in reverse. So let's be mindful of the things that we're doing. Going back to the book I wrote on discovering your talents and giftings, which is on Amazon.com, discovering your talents and giftings, questions you can ask and principles you can apply now to discover what those are. I talk about the learning curve. And really what the learning curve is it's all about the reminder, the routine, and the reward. It's really about the repetition of you doing action over and over and over again and being self-aware and creating new neural pathways in the mind. So then it becomes routine. So then to a point, we can talk about autopilot, right? How many times you in the car and you're going from point A to point B and you've done it multiple times. And sometimes depending on your day and what you're thinking about, you don't even realize how you got there. You're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? But it's autopilot. It's those neural pathways that are deep in your mind, the recesses of your mind, because you've already done it over and over and over again. And so the mind just kind of switches off, or switches over rather, into autopilot to do that. Right, that's a perfect example. Same thing with like me brushing my teeth. I brush my teeth the same way. Some of you go back to front, some of you go circles. I do both. But those are things that have been established when my parents taught me to brush my teeth when I was a wee young lad. So those are all perfect examples. And in fact, you have examples in your life now. If you think about it, I've created habits for this, which are good. And I've also created habits for this, which are bad. So, and then we'll get into later detail how to create good habits by replacing them with bad habits. But right now I want to talk about the importance of repetition to create habits for you. So again, to recap those three things, right? Reminder, so that cue, whatever it is to get started. Routine, massive, consistent action, being focused over and over and over again. And then the reward, which is the end result. The whole reason you started that, going back to the original intent, if I'm trying to fix this or do this or learn this, I'm going to take these steps over and over and over again so I can then have this, right? Or this way, I'm going to start here. This is what I want, original intent. I'm going to come here to step 2, and I'm going to take the massive action, repetition over and over and over again. And then 3rd, the reward, the end result of why I started from the beginning. So there you guys have it. 3 things: reminder, routine, reward. Hope this helps you out. Stay tuned for the next episode. As always, appreciate you guys, because we're going to get into deeper parts and understandings of the mind as I bring specific guests on the show as well, who may be doctors, who may have their PhD, who do this, who study the mind for a living. I understand the importance of the mind. I don't understand all the ins and outs of it, but I do know what it takes to form a habit. I do know what it means as a result for taking massive action. And I do know how to get to where I'm going, as you guys are watching me get to where I'm going with this podcast, with these books I'm writing with this content I'm putting out for you guys. So I'm asking you to come along on the journey. Welcome to season 2, Motivation Factor Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.
Words become actions. Actions become habits, and habits determine where you go. This is the Motivation Factor